Yes, yes. And I think you can work with public safety because they make those assessments based on each individual
the one building that I was part of the consideration is Hillcrest was being considered, but the challenge with Hillcrest was Hillcrest with a capacity of just under 70s, between 60 and 70, and that wasn't big enough for we were expecting will come. The estimate we had, so Hillcrest was the other place that we looked at. We thought of it as central. But the size, the capacity of the Hillcrest was a better for public safety that we really want to find a way people from Hillcrest. But I'm happy, like I said, we can bring this over to you anytime you want to talk about it. And there are other spaces that they're already being used.
Yeah. So Jasmine and then
why is it being said now and not before? Why is that one being made clear?
Clarify what?
In terms of like location changes, like don't like the organizers of this deserve kind of an explanation. Don't.
And we were strong concerned with it being with the current accessibility concerns.
Right. And I will say, like, the conversation about whether or not to move the event happened over the course of several days, and we actually resisted it until it reached a threshold where we felt like we really wanted to affirm your original plan and not to reject it. And so we kept saying, let's not do this until it reached a threshold where we felt like we had an obligation to do it. And that was literally made right before we communicated that to you. And so, like, I understand your question. We were working actively not to do it unless it became absolutely necessary. And then we communicated as soon as that decision was made. So, and I think we could have been clearer about the fact that that was a conversation that we were having, but we also didn't know what the ultimate decision would be, so we didn't want people to have to start making alternate plans if they weren't where they need them. And we were trying to wait until we had a clear sense before we let anyone, And maybe in retrospect, it would have been helpful just to say this is something that we have to consider, but we don't know yet. But we decided on this.
And the decision literally, this does not excuse, this does not justify anything, but we really started having this conversation Sunday night is when I said we, the senior leadership group, found out, and many of us are in the IT management team, we started having the conversation Monday. And then yesterday afternoon, late afternoon, when this decision came up with the people, and that's when, right after that, we had a conversation with some of the students who have been organizing, and we said we would follow up with a plan of how will this happen in Cardiff, making sure that the rally and the Pride celebration happens. And then this morning, like Rennie explained, the number was over, so we decided to call it. It happened in really tight timeline, and we tried to make that as soon as we made the decision that we are going to do it.
I guess I just want to express my frustration and point out that there's a pattern, since I got here at least, of the administration completely mystifying both decisions and rationales for those decisions, and how that is completely an exertion of power over students and leaves us in this horrifying, scary, like powerless, awful, terrible feeling that I think a lot of people in this room are feeling. Like we all spent hours and hours in the past couple of days, especially Grace and Kate. I know Marcella also has spent so much time like trying to combat this, and it's honestly just appalling to me that this is the school that I go to right now. And I know that that's not. I know that the three of you have been like. I'm not saying this to you as individuals that like you're at fault, but I am like pretty disgusted with the school right now, and hope that's communicated.
Yeah, and I owe that on behalf of the administration. Just yes, do.
No, you should let us know. You need to hold us accountable. We have some short.
Yeah, I definitely am. I just but I just want to reiterate too that I know that it's not.
No, we're adults. We don't take it personally, but we do take responsibility. Yeah, and like I said, we have fallen short. I'm not going to, and when I say we, I'm talking about collective we, administration, and senior leadership. We have fallen short. There's no denying that. I want to make sure
Yeah, I guess just like going off of that and looking into the future, like, with all the responsibility that's being taken and like the things that happen, how do we know it's going to result in a change? Because there's a difference that we see between like acknowledging that was a fucked up situation, but then what's going to be different next if this happens? Because I think all this.
Yeah, 100%. And I will say that I can't answer what specifically will be different, but I can assure you something will be different, or I will be here anymore either. I'm pretty excited about that too. So one of the things that we are strategically working on is saying, you know, we need to have very intentional conversations about how we got to this place and be accountable for that, and be also accountable about what we're going to do that we don't end up there again. And I am willing to put every ounce of energy I have into those conversations and hold people accountable who are not playing into those conversations in the way that they need to. But you can personally come to me for accountability. I will take and own that. That is a big chunk of what my work looks like, and so I just want to say that on behalf of myself. So, Christian.
I want a more clear apology from the political science department, and specifically the actually terrible excuses that they made yesterday at the forum. I want changes in the process of the department sponsoring an event. I have no idea why, because essentially what the chair of the department said is that he really just trusts what his department does and proposes, and that there really isn't like a conversation that's had. I don't think you even need the majority of the department to approve it. And I also want an apology from his statement and encouragement of students to check several weeks in advance on the calendar of when an event is taking place to make sure that a homophobe isn't coming to our campus. I have no idea why, as the chair of the department, he couldn't do a simple Google search, because if you look up the person that was coming, the top hit is that he's a raging fucking homophobe. So, so I just don't understand, like, how he was so able to be so, like, just dismissive of like the harm that they were doing, and like clear push for quote unquote activist freedom, like when so many marginalized people were in the room. So there needs to, like, I want like a firm, clear apology from the political science department.
Name. Just a quick pause, and I know I'm going to honor that one of the things that we made at the beginning was that we didn't want to record, we wanted it to be a safe space, but I also want to hold space for the fact that you're naming a lot of things, and I'm going to invite, if it's okay if we kind of jot down what you're asking for so that we can bring it back to the conversation. You can use whatever. Okay.
Doing that and then maybe speak in the background sound and go
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
I think like doing some kind of note taking, but checking with the people in this room.
Oh, absolutely.
On the content before it gets
and Christian, to answer, yes, there is a subgroup within faculty council working with students to really look at how we invite speakers, how the decision making framework is used. So that's happening.
Abby and I met with Dr. Blight about 2 hours ago and had an interesting conversation.
He just, like, Professor Blight told us he went and talked with a couple of qualified interviews about interviews with American, and he told us that, like, he was not aware. So I guess that's what he told us. And if anyone has questions about that conversation, was like, he wasn't aware of the homophobic.
Yeah, he was like, I looked at the Wikipedia article and it wasn't there.
So, but if people have questions about, if anyone wants
I don't know what happened in political science, but I do know that, we found out about this retrospectively, that the speaker was proposed in October, And so this has been in the works for a long time, but nobody knew about this happening until those posters got put up. So I think, again, what you're asking for is very important, that there have to be more voices brought in before making these decisions.
Well, that's what I'm saying too, is that Professor Bleich almost literally put the blame on students yesterday at the forum, saying like, why wasn't this conversation started earlier? Which again goes back to my point before, that he's saying, he literally said like, why didn't someone else check the calendar months in advance that we could have talked about it? Yeah, then one, it wasn't on the calendar, and two, like, as students, it's not our job to make sure that homophobes don't come to this campus. But I don't understand why he, like, as department chair, didn't like take the time to do that.
In the way that he presented on the poster was not representative of his homophobic views. So of course, if you ran that back in front, oh, it's just a political philosopher coming to speak.
Yeah.
Ignorance is not an excuse. That's exactly what the Rural Violence Center has said too. Oh, we weren't aware of his actions. The book that he's written, Human and Democracy, that's what his quotes are from. About feminists, about gay people, about Muslims being privileged for some reason. I mean, that's the subject of his talk. He's talking about his book. The quotes that I put up were not fake. They're from his book.
And from an educational perspective, like, out of the 3 professors that spoke yesterday, I got enough context that I needed on the European Union and the party that he's involved with without a homophobe coming to this campus. There's so many other people that could have talked about it, and yet there's this push for academic freedom and diversity of thought. Like, I don't pay money to have someone that trivializes our identities to come here.
I want to kind of highlight the issue of academic freedom, because I think that you mentioned it as one of the pillars that's being held up, but I want to highlight the fact that students who have put in effort both for this protest, there's been a distinct compromise of the students who feel marginalized on this campus or have put effort into this sort of protest or, combat effort, whatever, have felt that their academic freedom has been compromised because they are not capable of learning because their emotional state is so distraught that their mental and emotional energy is consumed by this. And then additionally, just to pick like what Christian's sort of saying, like I learned it like a lot from going to the talk the day before, and what the professor basically said, or his wife basically said, was that like we're not going to find common ground, we're not going to change his mind, so you should come prepared with questions in order to expose his problematic ideology for your fellow students. That is not academic freedom. That is putting the burden on marginalized students to educate their peers that homophobia is wrong. I'm not learning anything from doing that. I agree. So I think that issue of academic freedom needs to be questioned as well. It's not just integrity and respect. Some students' academic freedom has been compromised.
We have to extend it beyond homophobia to racism.
Racism, xenophobia, sexism, all of those problems.
And academic freedom cannot exist without respect and integrity, right? So it's not that, oh, this is academic freedom that means I get to overlook how this impacts the idea of respecting others in this community. And I think that's being worked into the new proposal of how we are handling that on campus.
The amount of rooms that I've sat through where people have said that we need to have more people in the room and have more conversations is astounding to me, especially in the last few years. When I remember sitting in this room specifically for 5 hours with Lori Patton, which she tried twice, talking about the need for more things, restorative practices. We need to have more, like a new system by which the political science department invites speakers. We had conversations with the political science department when it was run by Bert Johnson and when it was run by Aaron Bleich, and there's been absolutely no product of those conversations. So if we have no product of the conversation, what the hell is the point of the conversation in the first place? If we address this issue going forward, if only the platitude that we need to have more conversations, then we'll just have this happen again in 2 years and nothing will come.
I agree. Good action.
I just want to, I think this would be really important in looking into, how the poli-sci department is held responsible for it. And I think to make this point really well after the talk, that, professors in the poli-sci department are offering extra credit for students to go to this talk. And the point that they made was really great in that like people who are queer, people who are Muslim, people who are people of color, women, like all of those people cannot enter that room with the same feelings of safety, and isn't that already infringing on like a right to certain academic abilities that like that is just to me so disturbing that like that could be extended to all students, and like we all know that certain students can go in there and feel totally fine to do that, and certain students can go in there and have it be an emotional trauma. And I think that there needs to be like, some bigger research for that. And I also thought that Mayor Glacia's response to that was disgusting to the point that I left the room because I could not listen to him talk anymore. He basically was like, oh, well, just because he said homophobic things before doesn't mean he's gonna say homophobic things in his talk. I'm like, just go in and like listen, ask him hard questions. And it's like, he's done a bunch of other things too, but he's been blocking me.
Yeah, he also said that he offers extra credit for every assignment. Yeah. But most speakers that you go to like don't dehumanize you, so usually you can go to them.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I feel like the whole way that this has been handled, especially like the moving of the venues, has just felt expressly like discipline, like a way of like just personal punishment on students, like organizers, and like trust, like I'm to embarrass them, and it is embarrassing.
I mean, I'm pausing because I don't want to have like an intense conversation that feels really microaggressive. Like, I'm sorry that that's the feeling that we created. If it makes you feel any better, the poli-sci folks were equally pissed off at us as well for doing the event. I don't know if that brings any joy, but
I also want to return to when Cora was talking about like accountability and taking responsibility for this. And like I assume that it's not just you, like you're part of a senior leadership group, and like yes, you're taking responsibility, and like that is important, and I think we're grateful for that. But like that you aren't the only three that are involved with this, and you're talking to us and like being really transparent and being really honest, and like a lot of other people in your positions aren't doing that work. And like you taking accountability. I don't want that to let other people off the hook. I don't want that to let being counted off the hook. I don't
Thank you. And I want to say that some of the SAT members are right now in that other crisis management meeting to figure out how to respond to what just happened about given that we canceled the event and letting the speaker speak on campus with no knowledge, no notification. And in fact, I'm thankful for the text through which I learned that this was happening. So some of the CMT members are actually working on that. That's one of the reasons why they're not here. And that's something, at least I'm going to do everything that we need to hold us accountable, right? I am going to be very honest and say, I think we are done with the how. I think we have to answer the why. Right? Why is this happening? We can keep talking about, how to do this, how to do that. Those are really important. I'm not trying to minimize, but we need to get to the root of why is this happening. How do we
I'd also like to help us answer the question of why. I know someone posted in the Facebook event, but we need Team Cabinet to release where the funding for this is coming from. It's so ridiculous that it's not like visible on the site, and I don't know if there's a rule about that, but that should be a rule that like people should release how we are funding speakers when we know that this has been going on in this country. Like all these debates about like, reputation, people shutting down events. That's because like people want this to happen because this money is coming from like right wingers, like trying to just like fuck shit up.
Yeah, we should be more transparent. No, I completely agree.
Not immediately, but before the end of the semester, I've been thinking about how we bring speakers next year, etc. We want your voices to help us craft guidelines, and one of them is going to be, and I'm hoping we can come up with some kind of consensus that we can't bring speakers and external funded organizations. And I don't know how we can mobilize that, but I would like for that transparency of funding to be clear.
Or if it's externally funded, what's the purpose of that organization?
Because there may be some people who want to just come and speak, but we need to investigate why they want to come, etc. I think we need some protocol.
Kate emailed the Alexander Hamilton forum today.
Sorry?
Asking where they're funded, how they're funded.
Yeah, he didn't respond to the candidates asked him, and King Calvin didn't respond to any of the questions.
Oh no, we had a hand up.
I mean, if Abby wants to make a point about the funding, I can wait.
Well, so Rebecca and I asked Professor Bleish about the funding for the Hamilton Forum, and he told us that he also asked Professor Callahan, and then the funders are listed on, do you think
So he said it's listed on Go/Hamilton, but then I went.
No, it's not
there.
No,
So I know.
You don't have to reply. So, like in the past couple of weeks, with like the chemistry question, like the administration released a statement and like took actions against Professor Byers because what they said is that he jeopardized like students' ability to like learn in the classroom because of this emotional trauma. So I'm wondering if the administration sees the parallels between that incident and the action they took, which I know was action they took after parents wrote a letter saying they wouldn't donate to the Parents Challenge. And they said they wouldn't donate until the college took immediate action, and the college took action the next day. So I'm wondering, since everyone is saying, and you guys seem to agree, that this incident also jeopardizes people's abilities to learn through these emotional trauma, is the college going to take some more action against, like, Professor Callahan, for example, or like, are they going to use that to inform, like, how they go about these events in the future?
So we definitely are going to hold colleagues accountable. That conversation is happening right now, so I cannot speak to what that conversation is happening. We need to go back, and the other thing is that even with the chemistry incident, the conversation had already started happening. Some of the timing it seems like that the letter came and the next day college made the announcement. That those conversations were already happening. The parent concern on the Facebook page and the college's announcement came out, 24 hours apart. So sometimes the conversation already is happening in the same way the conversation is happening right now. We will, it takes a little bit of time because there's a lot of people involved, even in the senior leadership group, to make those decisions. But I assure you that we are working on that accountability piece, and as soon as there is a decision, we will let you know. This should not be about only about parents withholding information from the college. We have to do what's right by this community.
So actually, I am in that class, Chem 103, and okay, I have like a bunch of thoughts. So about that one, it's not just that particular incident on like the timeline. The situation of that class was already fucked up since the beginning of the semester. I'm so sorry for my.
You don't need to apologize for anything.
But the thing is, like, there's this discrepancy of power between administration, students, and like faculty that we feel like if we speak up, our grades are going to get affected because teachers just have this power of failing you if you raise your voice to them. And that class was not the best learning environment, and I'm in that class right now, and I'm learning far much better than I did when he was there. And the thing is that like we talked to him about it, but he did not respond. That like, why does the local legal talking about it, us making memes about it, had to start the conversation when he should have been receptive of it when we talked to him in the beginning, or when we reached out to the chief of diversity in the first place. But and the same thing with the this other picture that was put up in the geology class, and that's happening right now, that I'm hearing things about that the chief of diversity is going to take care of that. Why doesn't taking care of things mean that putting people through like racial bias trainings and things like that? well, and this whole idea of having a mandatory training or not, when we were put through trainings in the beginning of the year that we had to do like red dot and things like that, where it cultivates a better and safer environment, then it should cultivate a safer environment for us to be in a class where the teacher knows about his biases. And the second thing about that, Middlebury needs to know that it's just not an academic, I mean, it is an academic institution, but it also holds a great name. Like, it's in the top 5 liberal arts schools, and it has a lot of reputation. And if they're doing things like that, where students like us of marginalized communities don't feel safe, because at the end of the day, when we leave those classes, this is our home, because we cannot just go back to where we come from. We have to live here. And when these conversations and these speakers come on like our campus, it's not just that we go to that room and then we leave. It just messes up the whole environment of the school, and then it gives a pat on the back to those people who believe in those views.
Yes? Yes. I don't know, you named a lot of stuff that is really important to me. I don't think I need to just provide any other context around either teasing apart. Some of it is, there's what I call administrative mechanisms. So like, I don't know if you want me to be more transparent about some of the ways things happen around decision making, or respond to the conversation around mandatory training. I don't know if anybody wants any of that. I'm happy to engage in those conversations, but I'm also happy to have a space for people to name within the name.
It's been 2 years since Charles Murray, and during the Charles Murray protests, we used student protesters tactics that the administration did not find appealing or civil, and yet here we are being civil, and instead of doing experiments. So I just want to put it out there, I don't know how administration expects students to trust them at this point. And I also think respectability politics is bullshit.
Agreed on both points.
Yeah, I think that the trust with the administration, whatever trust there was, is gone. And I would like to reiterate Lee's comment about, I felt like the intrinsic fear of marginalized people about their safety was exploited today, because the safety threat seemed like I was scared that there was like a mass shooter or something like that, and it seemed, and so I felt like instead of saying, oops, I was wrong, Middlebury exploited the safety of students.
I mean, I'm happy to let that sit in the room. I've not started the decision-making process about whether or not to cancel cancel, but I was in the room when the discussion was happening, and I can 100% affirm that the conversation was about safety. And I'm not using safety as a rhetorical ploy. As someone who uses rhetorical ploys in a lot of ways professionally, it was not meant to be a guise for a context to justify canceling the event. And I'm going to name that, and I wholly support if there's no trust to accept that. I would totally name this other one as well as true. Then you don't have to be long enough to know either. So, Christian.
Yeah, I just want to reiterate why I think accountability is important in this situation and just in general. And it goes back to the email that the SGA sent out, which is that female faculty, queer faculty, and faculty of color on this campus are given the emotional labor of having to console students who have had to deal with educational violence, oftentimes perpetuated by white male faculty. So we're all in this room, and you're tasked with the job of doing this. So where's Professor Bleich? Where are the white faculty in the political science department that are creating this violence? Why aren't they here to talk to us right now? And why is it the job of marginalized faculty members to have to do that for students? Because they don't get paid extra for that.
Tell me about that. I'm not even in the administration.
I hear you, and I also want to hold space for maybe that I would want to make decisions after
I just want to reiterate, being this is crystal clear. We played it by the book this whole time. We were so transparent. We were so aggressively nonviolent this whole time. So non-disruptive. So everything. I mean, Tate and I, especially Tate, has spent the last 72 hours every single second. Like, we have not been sleeping. Like, it's just wild that they just slipped it right under our noses. We did everything. We did everything we were supposed to do. And we still got everything. We went in. We got these things. We got babysitters. We were all worried. We're all anxious. None of us have been sleeping. We're not worried about our safety. We don't trust anyone. We've been involved in some meetings, but not all meetings in Old Chapel, and that's great, but decisions are being made right now without any student input. Is Callahan going to face anything for this? I have to go to class with Matt Dickinson tomorrow morning. What is going to happen? I don't know.
And I can stand here and say at this moment I don't know either.
But I will say that we will take his concern back there, so that it will be.
Yeah, I don't just want the school to clarify about with the email earlier today was about safety and say that it wasn't because you were afraid of us. I also want the email to say we at Middlebury College are proud of the protesters who were planning to protest this event and how they were following the rules so well. Because I wasn't having that deserves to be honored. 2 years ago, after Charles Murray protests, there was such a I think a couple emails from Lord Patton saying we do not claim these students, they do not represent us, and that felt so horrible. And I think it's not only trying to be neutral about it. I want the school to raise us up, and I don't know if it's ever going to happen. I'm just going to say that, and I think that should be done. And the fact that makes it seem like a radical statement for Middlebury College to say we support these protesters says that there's something super wrong, and that we've been super wrong since 1800.
Well, historically, that's probably accurate. In a localized and very broad context.
I would so much love to see this place try to make itself better instead of us. It's just constantly you are amazing, and there's so much amazing activism on this campus, and it's constantly extra hours outside of class doing things unpaid to make this place better, and either you get a lot of grief for it, or you lose your health, or some combination of that. And with what you're saying, just affirming protesters and saying student activists make this place better, and giving us credit. There's been so many times I think activists here have done things and not received credit for it, but then also just doing it and I'm saying you probably must feel on your own sometimes. We still don't have inclusive bathrooms. And we've been asking for them for years. And they're still not here. And we're going to have to ask for that again and again. And it's just and people don't feel safe here. And there's concrete ways that we could all feel safer here. And that shouldn't be our job.
Absolutely. Agreed. 1,000%. I think I say at least 10 times a day, our students are engaging in entirely too much emotional labor that is our job to be doing, and I hear and affirm everything you've said.
Can you communicate what Ami said to the crisis management team?
Yes.
I even told, I just texted Hannah to say that TMT needs to listen to all of this before making any decisions. We of course will do our best to represent everything, and that was the whole intention of inviting all of you to CMT last night. We are not, some of us are not very good at listening, in case today afternoon even don't tell you that. But we have to listen, and you're absolutely right. And there is no excuse. Me apologizing is not going to cut it. We have to change the way we are engaging. And it's not on you to engage with us. Absolutely not. It's on us. And if we are failing to listen and then take the appropriate course of action, you should be frustrated. And sorry, I'm just really frustrated too. And that doesn't, again, make it right or I am absolved of my responsibility in any shape and form. But we are going to keep at it. Because this is not the institution we want, right? This is not 1800, this is not 1900, this is not the 1990s or 2000. So this has to change, and we will do, and when I say we, I'm talking about all my colleagues in the administration who sits on the senior leadership group, on the crisis management team, whatever. That if we don't take this on, then we are failing all of you, and that's unacceptable to me. So you're absolutely right. So I'm going to do everything. We're going to go back whenever that is tonight and talk about how do we respond to everything that you all have raised and which are, from my perspective, and this is just me speaking, absolutely valid. We can't hide behind bureaucracy, policy. Of course we need to, engage with difference of opinion, debate, but there are ways to do that, and we need to find that right way. That's right by everybody. So it's just really frustrating, and I hear you all should be outraged, and we should acknowledge them and apologize, because that's just about the least we can do right now, because we can't make it right in the moment, but in the future we will do everything to make it right.
I think there's also something to be said about where it's like students can do the work while they're here and can be activists while they're here. We're here for 4 years, and for the institution to change, it's going to take a lot longer than that. And I also think that you need to have people who are here for longer than 4 years to have that change arise. You can only be an activist until you graduate, unless you withhold your funding, the alumni, whatever, or the parents. And then the other thing is when you're giving affirmation to the protesters and to the organizers, I don't even know that you have to give affirmation to this cause specifically, although I do think it's morally correct. I think what is more important is giving space for free speech in general and allowing the fact that students are organizing and thinking actively and having opinions, that is the institution. And if students don't have that opinion, then they should not exist. If we're not learning, then we're not getting anything out of here when we go home.
I'm sorry, I didn't interrupt. I just want to text that Andy Lloyd, who is the outgoing Dean of Faculty. I'm trying to make the distinction because Sujata is here as the incoming Dean of Faculty. I'm still a faculty member. Yes. And so Andy Lloyd, David Provo, and Lisa, and I believe it's Lisa Burchurch, are on their way, because I think it's really important what you said, that all of my colleagues need to hear you.
Right on the board.
Sure. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Let's also continue to work. I know we are not being able to roll out restorative practice as in a way or in a timely manner that I had hoped, but I'm really hoping that we can make restorative practice and restorative justice a lot more rich.